Hi, my name is Ellie Varley. I voted to remain, but I would now vote to leave. I'm a member of the Conservative Party and I always have been. I joined the party when I was 18. I've been to university, I've studied politics, I've learnt more about the EU, and I'm just going to talk about how things have changed for me over the past 3 years. So obviously, as I said, I did vote to remain. I felt it was the safest option to do. You know, I'd learnt in school about the European Union during my history A-level. I'd learnt that as an institution, it protects our individual human rights. I thought that's a great thing to be a part of. I didn't understand why we'd want to leave such an institution that's been a part of our life for the past 40 years. So waking up in June to the result of the referendum was quite a shock to me. I've always accepted that we voted to leave, but I felt that I wanted the softest possible Brexit so that we had the safest journey out of the EU. But when the EU started to treat us in a way that could be damaging to our economy and to our livelihoods, for an institution that I'd learned was about protecting economies and livelihoods, that's not how things should be. So I started to do my research into the European Union. As I said, I went to university, I've studied politics, I've studied the European Union from continent to community, and I learned that there's an unelected body of the European Union. That I'm not a fan of that. I think that's completely wrong, that a whole body of people who we don't elect dictate a huge part of our lives. This is 40 years of integration that we live with day to day. That was one of the biggest factors for me, but also the fact that they have policies that are one size fits all, when in actual fact they really don't. You know, look at Greece. They're a country that have been consistently undermined by the European Union, and these are factors that have really changed how I feel about the institution. The fact that they've treated the UK in this way, that to completely damage us, ruin our reputation, we will give you a deal but you have to stay in the EU. That's Brexit only in name. So, you know, these things have propelled me to join and work on the campaign called Students for Brexit, of which I am the vice chair. We are a cross-party group that advocate the voice of young leavers, because the media, mainstream media, and also amongst peers and lecturers as a student, the narrative is always very pro-Remain, and that if you say, you know, I'm a Conservative and I think Brexit's a good thing, you are immediately penalised. It took me quite a long time to say to my friends, no, I'm not Labour or a Lib Dem, I'm a Conservative. And it was quite scary for me, because I'm thinking, are these people going to judge me? Are they going to assume that I'm a racist, that I hate immigrants and I'm only out for myself, I must be rich? And in honesty, I'm not. You know, I'd love to be rich, but here we are. So like, it's these things that kind of propelled me to join Students for Brexit, because we now have this community of leavers that you find yourself in a situation where your lecturers are calling you something or labelling you something in front of your whole class or on their Twitter followers. To have this community to fall back on and say, this is happening to me too, and you can talk about your problems and kind of articulate it with each other and help each other through these things, that's a community that's really worthwhile in these times. Students for Brexit picked up within 12 hours, we had over 1,000 followers. So there is a high demand for this, despite the fact that 70% of young people voted to remain. There is a narrative that all young people advocate for a people's vote or a softer Brexit, no Brexit. That's why we wanted to do this. We're here to advocate that whatever your political outlook, we still want Brexit, and there is a community of people that aren't being listened to. The conversation around young people as a whole is that we aren't engaged, we don't care, we don't really listen, we just do what our parents tell us to do and vote what our parents tell us to vote. And that's not the case for a lot of people. I think all the major political parties need to take action in getting young people registered to vote, because once you're registered to vote and you get in the habit of voting, it almost becomes second nature. And I think for me as a Conservative, I think the Conservative Party are doing a good job in engaging with the youth wing of the party, but I think they need to do more to propel us, to promote us, because at the moment you get young Conservatives put on the news or whatever and they just don't represent the majority of us. They represent a small minority of people. You know, there are articulate people out there that are crying out to be heard, and I think the older generations need to listen to us. This is always framed as our future, and yet we aren't involved in the discussion. People over 65 are, but the young people are always pushed to fight for Remain or fight for a people's vote, and that's not what we want. The framing of everything within the media has always been the negatives of Brexit. But we're here to highlight the positives of Brexit because there's so many benefits to Brexit. You've got the free trade, the fact that we can dictate our laws, the fact that we can remove policies such as force-feeding animals, the tampon tax, things like that are really important to me as a feminist and as a vegetarian. Animal welfare and the rights to have a period and not have to pay extra money on these things is something that's so important to me. And that these are just one of the many positives that Brexit can bring us. In terms of economic impact of Brexit, I think that there will be a time where we have a blip. We're leaving something that has 40 years of integration into our economy. There is going to be a blip. But I think after that little blip occurs, you'll see us starting to grow again as a global economy, not just an economy that trades with its closest neighbours. Saying that the EU aren't going to want to trade with us or can't trade with us is ridiculous. We'll be on WTO terms, so trading might not be the best economically for either side, but Germany are going to want to negotiate a trade deal that betters them and betters us. And if we do go for no deal, we have 13 trade deals currently set up that cover 38 countries. We've got 4 mutual trade agreements with America, Canada, I think New Zealand are one of them as well. So to say that there is an economic impact to this, yeah, there is. I'm not going to shy away from that. But I think that the impact after Brexit and what we can start to do once we leave the European Union will weigh out the negatives so much more. As a young Conservative, my shout out would be that you find someone, whether it be online or in person, that shares the same views as you and that you can really, really resonate with. You can have a laugh with, you can talk about policy, you can talk about current affairs, and you know that someone understands you. Because for me at university, going from having absolutely no Conservative friends to, I would say, quite a wide network of support now through Twitter, is something that's really, really helped me become so vocal and active in politics, because my friends have given me the confidence to do stuff like this.